October. Yeah, I'm right. Yeah, I hope we're all doing extremely well today. Now, football is back. Liverpool, the first game back after the international break. Let me know how we're all feeling. Let me know where you're from in the chat. So many people now have more different walks of life, more different parts of the world on here, and I'm very, very lucky to have you guys on this channel and interact in the way that you do. First things first is, as I always say, be respectful into the chat, be respectful to the community first and foremost, be respectful to the chat, the moderators in the chat, be respectful to me, be respectful to yourselves, and of course, if you can't, then your bill will be removed. It's not something that I like to do, but sadly, sometimes it's something that I do have to do. So let me know where you're from, let me know your feelings about the game, let me know anything else around the club. This is a Man United fan channel. We are so much more than that. I do get some amazing rival fans on here as well. Very, very respectful, very, very good fans. I'm very, very fortunate on here, as I say, to have so many amazing people come into the chat. So let me know. We are going to go through the press conference today. One thing I do on here is I do read your chats, even though there are super chats and memberships and all sorts of stuff on the channel. Irrespective of that, I will do my best to read your chats as much as I possibly can. That is what we do here. That's why these shows take as long as they do, because I respect your opinion, and to that end, just because I have an opinion, it's not the end of the conversation. It's just an opinion, and I think that's the beauty of life is to have a different opinion. Danny B says, big up JB. Danny B, legend of the chat. Welcome, my friend. I hope you are extremely well today. So let's get into it. So football is back. Liverpool is the game. And of course, Amorin has the conference. Now, this is obviously the embargoed section. The unembargoed full one will be on tonight. So I'll probably look to cover that tonight. Let me know what you think the score is going to be. Let me know predictions, team selection. I do have some news regarding the team as well, but I do think it's place your bets on who's going to play. I think particularly in goal. I think Amorin did allude to Lemens being in goal, but with this coach, I just don't know sometimes. So let's get through the presser. Are you talking about Man United? Yes, I am. Don't let the teacher look fool you. I'm in my teacher look today. So we're going to get through the Liverpool press conference. Hello, Zorbeck, if that's your name. I apologise if it's not, but I do try my best in pronunciations of names, which I don't always get 100% right. So press conference wise, so where do we start off? So basically, Amorin was asked about the backing from Sir Jim. Now, a couple of days, probably last week. Now, Sir Jim obviously came out with a statement. He's going to give Amorin 3 years, going to back the manager for the next 3 years. Now, Amorin was asked about that. So basically, Amorin basically said that Sir Jim texts him and tells him all the time. Barada and Wilcox sort of talk about that all the time. So they talk about that as a collective and as a team. Now, he did go on and basically say that look, we need to win, and he basically alluded to the fact that, look, if he doesn't win, he's not going to get the 2 years. Football moves very, very quickly. You're only as good as your last result, and I think that's right. I'm if you know anything about me, and you've heard me talk on the channel before, I'm very much Amorin managerin, and the reason why I have to prefix that is because what I always say about this coach, or I say about any owner, any player on this team, any coach, is that the moment you put your own endeavours and your own self needs and your own self agenda before the club, then you have to go, and that absolutely has to go for the manager as well. Sarthak says, I'm a Barca fan, but I think as a neutral, the first improvement Man United needs is a holding midfielder. With that, the tempo can be controlled. I agree with you. Welcome, my friend. As I say all fans are welcome here as well. Absolutely respect and thank you for the comment. I think you're right. Absolutely did the UAE buy them? That's a sad day, Jet. No, not yet. We did speak about that. I'm going to refrain from talking about that. I will give you a little snippet of that. Is that if UAE do buy the club, it's going to take a year. So it's not just a case of they're going to rock up with a truck full of cash and they do a deal. It's going to take a year. So I will update the channel as things happen and as soon as we know. But I'm of the opinion that it's investment and not sell. But let's keep our ears to the ground on that. But Sarthak is absolutely spot on. I do think we need a midfield player, but at the moment we don't, and I don't think we are until next year. So Amorin was basically asked about is he going to get the 2 years? Is he going to get the 3 years? Tell me about that. That's what he was asked. As per normal, Amorin is very, very good at talking to the media. I think he's very, very good at all that sort of stuff. And basically, he just went on to say that Sir Jim tells him all of the time. They have the fact that they have this team with Omar and Wilcox, and they all sort of talk through this together. So, and he went on to say that basically, he's pretty much only as good as the next game, and as we all know, look, let's talk about this bit. Just as random question: do you think Semen and Barthez are underrated? I like so Buffon gets all of the love. Seaman and Barthez. Do I think they were underrated keepers? I don't think Seaman is. I don't in this country. I don't think he is. Was he world class? Maybe for half a season or two, perhaps he was. But no, I mean, look, Seaman, I think is in this country. I think is renowned as one of the best keepers. Really, not probably. I'd rate him in the top 10. Barthez, on the other hand, look, Barthez is a World Cup winner. Barthez on his day was a good keeper. I don't think he's levels, So Buffon for me is levels above these two. The longevity of him. The things that he did. I genuinely think that he's levels above these two. David Seaman and Barthez. Do I think they're underrated keepers? I don't think Seaman is, but again, I think as time goes on, these sorts of keepers who are not, super well known or kind of known as an era, don't get the love. But both very, very good keepers. But underrated wise, I think Barthez probably wasn't for me. Obviously he played here. I thought he was okay. I don't think he was the best keeper that we've had. I don't even think he's. I don't think he's in the top 3. You could argue maybe top 4 or 5. But yeah. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that that's the correct opinion, but that's where I am in that one. So Amorin was then asked, so Barthez, I think this guy Jay Scruton could do the job as a holding midfielder. Already played for Southampton, now plays for PSV. You should scout him. I look. It's up to you guys in the chat. What I love about this chat is you guys suggest some amazing names, and I wish sometimes scouts and whatever, and I'm sure they're aware. I'm sure they are. But I'd love them to to come into these chats, and not necessarily ours, but you guys can suggest some amazing names. And United do need to do some business, so maybe he'll get spoken about. I'll certainly look him up, but I do wish that they would come in. Rohat says, "Uncle, hello, Pookie Uncle." Hello, Rohit. I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. Sparta says, I think the Belgian keeper could do the job. Trust him. I do. We've got Ugarte. We need to do something with him. Ryan, look, the problem with Ugarte at the moment, I don't trust him. I don't think that Ugarte. Look, Ugarte has potential, but Ugarte needs to start doing something now, and we do need to use him. My opinion on it is we've got a slow as hell Casemiro, and the fact that a fully fit, functional Ugarte cannot oust Casemiro concerns me. But I do agree on that. Lemens for me, look, I'm hoping Lemens starts and goes, and we'll get around to that. Amorin did sort of mention that as well. Bobby, legend of the chat, hello, I'm very well and hope you are as well. Mr. Love says, why didn't United sign Belieber in the summer? Focused on the front three over the midfield. That's a very, very good question. I think you're right. In Mbumo and Cunha, do I think we needed both? I think it transpires as much as I like Cunha, I really, really like him. At the moment, he's not getting into the team because of Mason Mount. Now, I've got my opinions on that. I think Mason Mount will get injured at some point. Will Mason Mount start this game? I think he probably will do. But if Cunha is not going to play as much, I agree with you. Why would you take that money? I don't think we needed the two number 10s. I like them both, but Cunha seems to be the one of the two 10s that we signed is not going to play. I would rather have not have signed one of the 10s and gone and got that midfield player. Believer, the reason why we didn't do the deal was because he was over £100 million, and I agree. Maybe at the time I didn't. Look, at the time, Believer at that age, if you spend £100 million, it sounds like a crazy deal. It's not a bad deal. When you spread that over 5, 6, 7 years, it's not a bad deal for a young player. But the reason why we didn't is because of the football inside. It's because they don't know what they're doing. Jet says, I bet you Ronaldo will the next 2 World Cup just to prove a point to win. He needs 1 championship to solidify. Look, Jet, I mean, what Cristiano does, I mean, and the World Cup. Ryan says, Random, do you have GoldenEye with the N64? What's in there at the moment? In there at the moment is FIFA 98. But yes, I do. I do have it. And actually, I did sort of do a video and start to play it on the channel as well. So I might do another one as well. Reese says, Ugarte too busy focusing on OF models. Possibly, Reese. Maybe he is. Maybe his eyes are elsewhere and not on football. Sparta says, Ugarte is just a player who is good, but his decision making is gross. He didn't understand perfect timing. Look, I've watched Ugarte. So do I think Ugarte is going to start this game? So I'll pivot slightly and change the order of what I'm going to talk about. So look, Ugarte, Casemiro, do I think he played? I don't know. Amorin was very much what's the word? Not shy, but Amorin was very much left it open. I think if Ugarte does well, I think he jumps ahead only because Casemiro was in Japan, and obviously it takes time to sort of come back and he might be tired. So I think that Ugarte has an opportunity here. I think he'll play. Possibly. I think there's more of a chance he does than not. I'm saying 60-40. Agree with you. Ugarte has not been the player. Toby says, OLA, nice to meet you, my friend. Mr. says, what are your thoughts on the Liverpool game? So, what do I say? So, Liverpool-wise, look, I think it really does depend on what Liverpool turn up, right? And what I mean is that if you look at that Liverpool team, right, I think the back four are not great. Kirkes, don't get me wrong, look, he's a good player. Frimpong, decent player, but I think they're still trying to embed in that team. Van Dijk, don't get me wrong, he's a quality player, but I still think that somebody with pace could give him an issue. And I think, is it Kanata, or whoever it is there as well. I don't think they're great, and Alisson is out as well. But then you've got a figure on the midfield of Szoboszlai, McAllister, and Wirtz. You can argue, Gakpo can slot in there as well. So you've got Salah, Isaac, Ekitike. When you're talking about these players, if those players come into any sort of form, we're in trouble. Particularly if we go there with a midfield pivot and we don't get one of the defenders to step in, we could be in trouble. So I think it really, really depends on what Liverpool side turn up. If Liverpool turn up with their best side and their players playing in best form, they'll blow us away. Like for like with best players, if United were playing their best, Liverpool were playing their best, I think we lose that game 9 times out of 10. If it's a Liverpool form that they showed before the international break, again, our momentum has been stopped as well. So it depends. Look, it completely depends. I go with, look, we can create some chances, but we also know that we can concede them as well. So I'm hoping. Look, this sounds really sad, right? But I think a result would be a draw. If we can come away with a draw, look, I demand this club does more than that. But I will, I think a draw would be good. If we can come away with a draw, I think that would be great. But I do suspect Liverpool will win. So as much as I hate saying it, it's not something that I want to say, but I do think that Liverpool will come away with a win. The caveat to that is I really hope that if we play well, then and we can take something from that game, I'll be happy. So let's see what happens. Look, I really, really hope I'm wrong. But let's see. FIFA 2000, I agree with that song. It was a beast. My teenage years were lost to the N64. Power Weapons, mate, I love that game as well. We will beat Liverpool. Hararu, back-to-back wins needed. Amorin needs the monkey off his back. I agree, Ryan. I agree. Africa will not unite. Says Liverpool will trash United. Ryan, look, Africa, I think anything's possible. I think anything is possible. Do I think they will trash us on this occasion? No, I don't. I think it'll be a close game. Liverpool have not been playing well. So I don't think we're going to see a 7-0. I hope not. I don't think we will. Could it be 3-1? Yeah, it could be. Could we win? Possibly. My money is on a draw. My money is on a draw in that game, but I disagree. I don't think we're going to get trashed. Bobby Legend, we will win for United's sake. We do need to win, Bobby. Otherwise, we all know what's going to happen. Look, if we don't win, the pressure will be back on. Amorin, I don't think it will be a repeat. I agree with you. Do you think this game is Amorin to switch Fernandes for Mount? He's not going to do that, Fishman. Look, will Mason Mount start? Yes. I think Cunha gets dropped again. Look, Cunha, look. Cunha, I'm already worried about him. Really worried about him because I like him. I think he's the future of this club. There's talk of a Bruno Fernandes contract, a new contract. If Bruno stays, I think Cunha questions it because he's not getting into the team. He's a Premier League starting player, and Mason Mount is starting over him when we don't have enough games to give them both time. So, I think Mount starts. Denzi Adams says, bro, give us Andre Onana's contract for €5 million. You'll be happy, and we will be happy. It's a good deal. No, we can't. He's not on. Look, we cannot take that loss on him. So, even if you give him his contract, he's not on 200 grand a week. He's 120 grand plus €5 million, which is not even £3.5 million. It's not going to happen. You can have him, but United are not going to do that, my friend. Almost 20 years ago of the epic France versus Italy final, those were I remember that, my friend. Amorin hasn't won 2 games in a row in the Premier League since he's been at United. Seems like a bad omen. I used to like Bruno, but his attitude can sometimes let him down. Look, I've made my thoughts on Fernandes clear. I want him gone from the club. I think he's an issue. I fully appreciate him. He's, in my opinion, Bruno is a stat padder. You watch him. If Bruno disappears in this game again, like I'm done with Fernandes. I think he'll go hiding in this game. If he does, then he can absolutely fuck off. I've got no time for Fernandes. I don't forget game to game how he's been this season. I think he's been awful this season. He's had one good game, maybe 1.5 good games. Fernandes for me is done. I want him out of this club and sold. I think he stunts other players. I think he stunts opportunities for other players to come in to this team. And if the news is true that he gets another contract, it will absolutely hinder this club for the next 2 years. For someone who's meant to be a leader, Bruno goes missing. Agree completely. And I think Bruno, Liverpool captain, if he doesn't step up in this game, for me, he's gone. So Amorin, back to the conference. So again, back as he said, look, back to the vision he was asked. Amorin's vision of the club, and he said this: first of all, I can feel it. The pressure I put on myself is often bigger. It is really hard to basically hear. So Amorin is talking about, he can feel the vision of the club in conjunction with the fact that he's been supported. He can feel it. He feels the pressure. He puts more pressure on himself than anybody else. But he feels like the future is really good. Now, again, my problem with this is Amorin talks extremely well. Now, I've heard this time and time again. We keep hearing this time and time again that he puts pressure on himself. Now, Robert Lewis says, let's be honest here. This is not one good world level player in the Prem. It's 2025 and the level has gone down so much so I think people will start watching other sports. Robert, I respect people's opinions on here. Agreed. That's your opinion. I disagree. I do disagree completely. I still think all the best players come to this league. I don't think the level has gone down at all. If anything else is more competitive. Robert, you tell me, if you go to La Liga, are you telling me La Liga has more than 4 good teams? I mean, La Liga, these teams are flying to islands. They're flying to Mallorca. They're flying to tiny islands to go and play a football team on that island. 100% not. Italy, the fall off in Italy has been devastating. I think there are a couple of teams coming back now, but Italy are not consistent. The Bundesliga is okay, but absolutely 100% disagree. The Premier League is still the most competitive and in my opinion still has the best players. Look, that's your opinion. Football is the most supported sport in the world. The World Cup is the biggest sporting event. The World Cup final is the biggest, most watched sporting event in the world. I disagree with you, but Robert, you are allowed to have your opinion. Bobby says you can't teach assertive. You can't. Onana was a good keeper, but let's face it, thanks to Onana, we're currently in second place. Binder is playing in goal right now, and he's bad keeper. Look, I sadly, my friend, I can't talk about the Turkish league because I don't know. Onana, I love the fact that you're supporting your players. I love it. Right, I think when you support a team, it's good that you see the best in players. Right. I disagree that Onana's good. He's not been good since he's been here. There were many, many reasons. I'm glad he's gone. I hope, if he comes back, I don't think he will. But I think he's not great. Lamens, I think will play. I'm not saying the level of football around the world is. No, Robert, I don't think you are. I don't think you are. But my point I'm making is I still think Premier League is levels above everybody else. I think competitive. Look, when you're looking at competitiveness, you have to look at the competitiveness of the league. Now, I agree that there are some teams in some leagues who you can argue at the moment are better than maybe some of the teams in our league. But we're talking 1, 2, or 3. You talking about Bayern Munich. Are they probably better at the moment than some of maybe the top 4 potentially? But I guarantee you, if you had Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Napoli playing in this league every single season, they would not be romping their league. They would not be romping this league. So I disagree. I disagree completely, my friend. Manic says, you guys keep sacking the manager. How the hell your players able to play to the fullest potential? I'll give you my opinion on that. I agree. But why are we sacking managers? We're sacking managers because of players. Let's be honest. We're sacking the manager because this club is toxically run. That is why we sack these managers. Previously, toxic players, ego players, they've sacked multiple managers. Okay, if you have players who don't perform on the pitch, who has the repercussions of that? And the repercussions of that do not fall on the players, they fall on the coach. So it's the other way around. The players are sacking the manager. Now, in this instance, people are clamouring for 4-3-3. We've played 4-3-3 up until this point. How many coaches have been sacked playing a 4-3-3? Because these players, not all of them now, but there's a still chunk of these players who down tools. Fernandes is the epitome of somebody that downs tools. The manager can set out a formation, can set out the tactics. It's these players that need to go onto the pitch. These players can play to their fullest potential. Look, it's only been in the last year that these players have been asked to play in a different way. These players don't have to play to their fullest potential. All these players have to do is turn up and do the simple things, which they don't do. So I disagree with that. I think it's the other way around. I think the players sack the managers. Mislav says the Premier League is literally the best league in the world. The bottom clubs in the Premier League would get a lot in Serie A. I agree. My friend, I don't understand much of what you're saying because my English is terrible, but I love you. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Cool uncle, don't take stress. I'm not, my friend. Your English looks good. I agree with you. PSG is the only team in France that could be competitive in the top of the league. United sack the managers because you shouldn't back a manager if they don't get the results, as it's a results-based business. Benja says, yo, hello, Benja. Hope we're doing extremely well. So, back to Amorin. Amorin on the conference. Amorin on previous Liverpool games. So he says, I remember we played well. I was really upset that they proved to me that we can be competitive against any component, and he knows what it means. And I think Amorin there, is 100% right. We play well, but we play well in certain games. And again, is this going to be one of those games where we play well, and then do we then go to the next game, and then do we lose that? So we've got Liverpool, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, and then Spurs, right? Do we take Sunderland, and then do we get spanked here? If that happens, then it's almost like we reset. We win, we reset. Now, I absolutely do agree with Amorin on this point, is that, we do play well. We are capable of beating teams. But Amorin says that every single game. And, I as much as I like the way that he talks, and I like the way that he speaks, there's a rhetoric from me now forming amongst this manager that he makes excuses for these players. Wayne, hello, my friend. I just thought to say hello, speak to you soon. Busy at the moment. Wayne, legend. Speak to you tonight, my friend. So I know, yes, whilst I agree that we played well the last time, I know he was annoyed at the loss. But I always feel like with Amorin at the moment, I understand you can't throw players under this bus. No, particularly with these players. Okay, these players cannot take criticism. Bruno Fernandes is the epitome of that. Liverpool definitely the shadow of their former self last season. Is going to be 50-50 this time. Good comment. And again, get in your comments, give us a like, favourite, and subscribe in here as well. It absolutely cost you nothing to give us a like. Even if you just give us a like for the community, this is an amazing community. Look, I do think it's a 50-50, but I think that in one aspect you can go, look, you need to throw the form guide out of the window, because this is a derby, and we should in essence be able to do that. Now, the City game, like City were playing very, very similar, not playing great. I genuinely thought that we would have a chance in that. Again, I didn't learn the lesson of old, and I trusted these players. There were two things now at play for me. I don't trust these players. I don't, and I'm going to say that now. And the reason why I don't trust these players is for this reason. If we did win, do I then trust them to go win the next game? No, I don't. For me to trust these players and for me to give an accurate look, I find it so hard to give you a prediction on games, right? Because I'm literally putting my finger in the air and I don't know. And that's what makes this so frustrating for me, is because I can't give you a prediction, an accurate one, because I don't know. It depends on what team turns up. The fact that we're in a position whereby if Liverpool turn up, I know Liverpool win. And I can't look, we can be competitive, but it depends. So I do agree that it's 50-50. Look, is it 50-50? The way that the two teams are playing, yes. But it relies on our players turning up and not hiding. I think it's a very interesting point to make. If you don't think LVL of football has gone down, you might want to check the older teams from Real, Barcelona, United, Milan. The whole team's filled with legends. There's nothing like that now. No, yeah, but but the game has moved on. The game has moved on, and I think, Robert, you make a good point. I'm not going to disagree with you on that point, but they were legends to us. I mean, I don't know how old you are, right? But I'm damn well sure if you talk to somebody who was 40 in 1990, I'm sure they would probably say, the legends like Cruyff. I didn't see Cruyff play. We're talking, I don't know, Puskás. If you talk to somebody, say, who was around in the 50s, who saw Alfredo, who saw Puskás, who saw Cruyff, who saw some of these 70, Keegan, I'm just saying that it's moved on, not in a good look again. Yeah, look, Robert, I promise you, I'm not disrespecting your opinion. This is more about talking that opinion out, right? I do think you make a good point, but the point I'm going to make is whilst I agree with you, I think maybe someone who's 40 who was in 1990 wouldn't necessarily think that Zidane or whatever else was a legendary player. They may think those players of the 70s were icons, and and then as time goes on, like now, there are different legends, to younger generations. So I agree with you. Whilst I say, you look at Messi, Ronaldo, God, Zidane, Figo, Oliver Kahn. I mean, Jesus, Giggs, Beckham, Scholes, Stevie G, I mean, there are so many legends, right? R9, you go back, Roberto Carlos, Beckham. I mean, you could go through every team and list that, but are they legends to us because we're of a certain age? And I think if you were to ask teenagers now who are the legends to them, and that's what I mean. But I do agree. I do agree that the legends of the past were probably a bit more legendary than they are now. But I do think football has changed. I do think that has football changed for the better? I don't know. I do think they're probably better athletes now. But I just think the difference is now is that players play for a brand. Players are the brand. Players don't play for that legendary status. Look, I think the difference is this. Players always used to play because they loved the game. Players were passionate about their club. Players were loyal to their club. Players had fire to play for their club. Now players are more drawn to fancy cars, money. They're drawn to status and brand. That's why they move clubs. So, I think there's very, very few loyalty players who just play because they love to play. I think it's more about status and money nowadays. Monster says, Liverpool, haha. Fergie will be spinning in his grave. Well, Fergie's not dead, so silly thing to say. Embrace playing for this club. Now you're telling facts. I think that. Look, it's a difficult one. I do think it is. I think it's a difficult one. But Robert, I think you make a good point. Please say hi from Russia. Hello. I can't read your name, but hello from Russia. Hi, my friend. Hope you're doing extremely, extremely well. So, on to the players who are going to play. So, Lucha's out. So, I think Lucha is penciled in for Brighton or Forest, depending on how we go, depending on sort of results wise. Lights do my dependent on how he responds to training. So Lucha is definitely out now. Mazraoui, I believe, is 50-50. Mazraoui has trained, but again, 50-50. I would love him to play, but I do think maybe this game could come too early. They need to manage his minutes. Mazraoui seems to be really injury prone at the moment, picking up injuries all over the place. So Dalot and Fernandes obviously played international football. Amorin sort of skirted around it a bit, basically kind of saying that they played games, but they will play, but we have to manage their minutes and that kind of stuff. We all know what that means. Amorin must read and must know how the fans feel about the Portuguese contingent. I think they must know, that we think that there's biased. He's not a silly guy. I think that Dalot will play. I do. We all know Fernandes will 100% play. Whether Fernandes is 20% fit or 100% fit, we all know that he's going to play. Dalot. So look, if Mazraoui or doesn't play, Ahmad. So is my thing here is right wing back. Is Ahmad good enough to go to Anfield with the likes of McAllister in that midfield? So Bosley in that midfield. Can he go up against Frimpong? If that's the side he's playing on, I don't know what side he's on. Can he go up against those sorts of players? Score prediction. We've got to be honest. I think that Liverpool will win. Liverpool, I think, will win 2-1, 3-1. Look, I I'm not a negative person. I'm a realistic person. I do hope that we win. I can only hope. But at the end of the day, I know we're going to Anfield. I think all bets are off. Look, these players crumble. Fernandes is not a big game player. This is a very, very big look. This is the game I think more than anything else could. Excuse me. I think this is a game more than anything else could spark our season up. Back-to-back wins, 6 points could spark something into life. My problem is we don't know what we're going to get. Fernandes traditionally hides in these games. If Fernandes hides, then we're done. I do agree with you. Liverpool do look shaky, but they still be winning games. You know, look, that's the one thing with Liverpool that you're going to get, right? Is that if you go through their side, right? Oh my God, I'm yawning. So if you go through their side, what have they got in their side, right? And Bobby, and again, agree with you, the sale of the club has been overshadowed by the game. And I think that's how it should be. I think that's how it should be. Now, if anything else does come about that, I will come on. But I agree with you. I think it has. So I think that we lose. But the problem is with Liverpool, you've got Salah. Salah, you've got Ekitike, Isaac. I mean, Gakpo on his day, you've got McAllister, Szoboszlai, Wirtz. Those players alone, they terrify me. If one or two of those players have a brilliant game, forget about it. Like he says, Delict, Euro, Kobe, Xerxes, Leon, Dalot, Lucky. I love Lucky. I love how you do suggest names, but Leon, mate, is nowhere near it. Leon is nowhere near a Premier League player. He's got time. He's nowhere near. Xerxes, look, I'm gonna go back, right? If this was under Fergie, I think Xerxes would play. So Fergie, for me, I remember the times where, oh God, I'm yawning, sorry guys, where Fergie would play O'Shea against Liverpool. Liverpool was one of those games where Fergie would literally start a team and you think, what are you doing? He's going to start an O'Shea, right? For me, if this was Fergie in charge of this team, I think he would go Xerxes. The rest of them, look, we know what the team's going to be. The team, I think, will be Lemens in goal. If he puts Binder in goal, I just don't know, right? I think he goes Dorgu if Mazraoui is not fit to play. I think he goes Luke Shaw. I think he goes Delict, Yoro. I think he goes Dalot if Dalot is fit. If not, Ahmad. The midfield pivot, I think, is going to be Bruno, and I think is going to be Ugarte. If Casemiro's fit, Casemiro will play. Manu, I don't think gets a look in here. I might be surprised. He goes Mason Mount, Mbumo, and Shesko. And I think that's what he does. I think Cunha misses out. So take your pick. And again, I just can't. I can judge him what he's going to do with the back five. I just don't know. What he's going to do with that front three. Your guess. Our players have been told to bring passion on the pitch. Lucky, mate. They're told, look, why do our players need to be told to bring passion on the pitch? that should be, when you play for this club, all this passion crap, you shouldn't need passion to play for this club. That should be a given. That shouldn't even come into the mentality. When you play for this club, it's not about passion. It's about pride in you. It's about doing your job. It's about pride. It's about playing for these fans, playing for this club, playing for this badge. And if these players need to be coached in passion to bring that passion on the pitch, then I don't want any of these players near this team, because if I'm asking players to bring passion, I don't want them here. I do not want them here. So I feel like Liverpool could do a 4-3-2-1 to get both strikers. Look, I agree with you. Look, I keep yawning. I know they can do, but I think I think one of the problems with that is that I'm hoping that we counter. I think Amorin goes with he goes with a back three, but I think he goes with a defensive. So I think he goes with a back five, and then we catch them on the counter. So the problem is that then when you commit two strikers, you are missing a man. But I think Slot will basically be, look, you go and attack him to death, and try and score a goal. So I think, look, it's the rest of the press conference will be out tonight. I will do a show tonight on that. Just wanted to come on and kind of just quickly go through the conference. I mean, look, Amorin's a good talker. The one thing for me that's becoming abundantly clear about him is that he keeps on repeating himself. You know, he keeps on making excuses for these players. I like how he talks, you know, I do. But I do feel almost a bit like now he keeps saying the same things. You know, when we keep getting beat, or we win, we lose, we win, we lose. You know, I need more. I need more from this coach. You know, he keeps saying that he can feel the pressure is on himself. I get all that, Amorin. I don't care. But I don't need to be told the pressure is on you, because I know it is. It should be. You know, the fact that Lucky there has said that, you know, these players need to be told about passion. Amorin keeps saying that the pressure is on him. Well, no shit, mate. Like, I don't care. Like, you need to now stop using that. Oh, like the pressure's on me. Look, it should be. The pressure is on every single coach in this league. Not every single manager comes out and says every week, oh, the pressure's on me. The pressure's on me. I feel the pressure. I get it. Like, I am Amorin in, I'm manager in, but I need to see more. I need to see, if the pressure is on you, then do something. You know, if we get a tank in on Sunday, you know, the how does he survive that? You know, if we get absolutely romped, I'm just going to say this now. You know, he says he's been given 3 years, and we all know that that's a load of nonsense. If he gets tanked, and then that will absolutely demoralise these players. And then the Brighton game becomes again a must-win game, and then, you know, the Forest game away, you know, then that becomes again a must-win game, and then Spurs, you know. So look, Amorin, for me, this is going to be the spark. I think this is going to be the spark. I think I predicted 8 from 8. What will be 10? So I think Amorin, even if he gets beat, I think he still keeps. Amorin still keeps his job, right? I think if he gets absolutely hammered, I think you know, I think that will be part of the writing on the wall, and then I think it depends on the next 3 games. You know, I think that if a scenario comes out, like favorite and subscribe. Thank you, Bobby. Exactly, my friend. I think if Amorin gets absolutely tanked, draws or loses against us Brighton, draws or loses against Forest, loses against Spurs, I just don't see how he survives that. I don't see how he does. And then the beauty of that for Ineos, and we need to remember this as well, is that November the 1st, he can be sacked for a lower price. So I'm just saying now that these 4 games for him are pivotal. Dexter Simmons says it's now or never for us. Dexter, agree with you. Agree. I think if we don't win this game, look, I'm not even saying winning the game. If we don't at least play well, and we don't at least do something significant in this game, I just look. If you can't get up for this game, how are you supposed to get up in this Premier League? Now, this game should be you should look. I don't care if we lose this game, as long as we leave everything out on the pitch. If these players give everything they possibly can and still lose, I would clap them off the pitch, 100%. But they've got to give it all. Kevin McGee says he's not going anywhere. He's here to summer. And Kevin, I'm up for that. I've said on him many, many times, I would give him another season, because I'm still adamant this is not his team. These players are not his players. This team is not his team. I would happily give him another season. But whether or not I would do that, I don't think he survives. If he takes 1 point from the next 4 games and gets a tank in, I don't think he survives. I just don't think he would. I will give him. I'd happily give him until the end of the season, see what he can do with more players. But I just don't think he survives. If he takes 1 point from 4, I think he's gone. Windows 98 says, what do you think about Le Mans? I thought, look, one of the things that impressed me, and of course, rival fans, take the mickey, because, how can you have, how can you be so happy with a goalkeeper, right? It's different. You know when you've got a good player. When I've watched football for 38 years, right? You know when you see a player. I'm not saying that he's going to be the greatest keeper in the world, but compared to what we have, even the way that he came out and commanded those balls, his positioning, it's an upgrade. Whether or not he can progress and whether or not he can be good, that's another question. But I thought it was very, very good, considering what we've had. I thought he was commanding. I thought it was the way that he positioned himself. So I thought it was great. I'm not going to get carried away with that. People are calling him the new Schmeichel, and I think sometimes the reason why people do that is so they can beat these players down. So I hope he plays. I hope that we can win that game, because the confidence of that will give him. My only concern is that we do get tanked, and the knives will be out for him. Lucky says 2-2 passion and desire. Again, Lucky, if these players, mate, Passion Merchant FC, I'm not calling you that, but mate, I don't need to see. Look, I need to see it, but it should just be these players need to do their job. I don't care about passion. Well, I do care about it, but it shouldn't be said. It doesn't need to be said. It should be these guys go out and do their job. They should be passionate for themselves, passionate for this fan base. Lucky, why couldn't they do this the whole of last season? Where was the passion in that final? Where was the passion then? Why is it now we're just going to see this passion in this one game? This whole passion stuff, it should be mandatory. It doesn't need to be said. The fact that we're talking about it, it baffles me as to why people think that should be a thing. We will win 3-2. Windows, mate, I hope we do. I really hope we do, and I hope you're right. Look, if we win it, come back on here, and we'll celebrate it. I hope you're right. I really, really do. My friend, if I am a player, I want to give my all. Yeah, but Lucky, These players don't, mate. Lucky, I've no doubt, Lucky, judging on the comments that you make and how you feel about this team, I have no doubt, Lucky, that you would go on that pitch, you would blood, sweat and tears, and you would leave it all out there, Lucky. I've got no... I know that you would leave it completely there. These players don't. These players do not. Bruno Fernandes does not do that. Bruno Fernandes will go hiding. Lucky, Bruno Fernandes is not you, right? And what I mean is that, does he, every single game, does he put the club and the fans before his petulant ways? No. You look at the Brentford game, awful. You look at the Leeds game when he missed the penalty, or no, the Fulham game, because the referee barged past him, right? That's our captain. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And whilst you've got a captain like that in our team, awful. Deward says, hi, hello, my friend. I hope you're doing extremely, extremely well today. So, guys, that is where we are. I will be back this evening. Those are just some of the highlights from the non-embargoed section. I will do another show tonight. We can talk about the embargoed section and what was said. I mean, I doubt there'll be anything more interesting in that. If anything else does break between now and then, like with the Cell Talk, I will come on and talk about that, any player news and all that sort of stuff. So feel free, once the video's ended, to get into the comment section and give me your predictions. Tell me in there what you think about the game. I agree, Lucky. I do think Cunha should be the penalty taker. Fernandes for me is too emotional. So on that note, guys, I'm going to go. Thank you as always for being here, supporting the channel with your comments and your views as well. It really, really does help us out. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I will be back this evening with another late show. So feel free to join me on that one. So, guys, thank you so much. And I will see you on the next one. Take care.